Oh, yeah. Y'all know what time it is. We brought the whole gang, including Uncle Ted, tonight. We fixing to get it going. It's Thursday night. Top Baits live for Lake Fork Bass Fishing. We're going to try and help you catch more and bigger bass this weekend. We're going to love our fellow man. And we're going to say cheers, y'all, because it's Thursday night in God's country. Let's get it. Yes, indeed. It is time to get it going on the top baits, man. We're going to let y'all know what's going on. The offshore bite is heating up. We finally starting to get a little bit more. We got to shut Uncle Ted down because we got to talk fishing for a little while here. I love that. I love that song. I love the beginning of that song. I'm thinking about just bringing that in on all the live streams now. Anyways, the offshore bite's heating back up because the weather's heating back. It's not that the offshore bite heated down. I put that in the title because the weather is heating up, which is going to make that offshore bite much more consistent than what it has been. As we get to the end of this week, we're starting to get hotter days. Hey, it may be a lot more uncomfortable out there on the water. What sure does make for better fishing. We're going to break all that down tonight. I got so excited about Uncle Ted, I lost my train of thought for a second. Hey, let's go through the drill, man. Y'all know the drill. As you guys get in here, if you enjoy these Thursday night live streams, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up. As you guys get in here, drop me a comment and let me know who it is that I'm talking to tonight. And of course, share this thing. Share it, get it out there to as many people as possible. I will certainly appreciate that. Nothing helps me more than that when you guys share these videos. So thank you very much for doing that. Let's say some hellos and how you doing to some of the early risers that we got coming in here tonight. The low ballers, you might call them, hanging out with us. We got N5 KDA, whatever that is. He's here. Lee Hammer, we appreciate him being here too. Lee Hammers, Cam, Stephen Latham, what's going on, dog? Ain't seen you in a while. John Sherrod, Michael Bray, Wayne Mays, Dusty Smith, JD, Cody Mays. Those are the earliest of the early risers. John Denny's in the house. Megan Jones. We got a bunch of folks coming in right now as I'm actually trying to say hello to y'all. Tim Rose, Timmy, big time Timmy. Jim, OT Rhodes is in the house. Sean Gills, Jimmy Potter, Sawyer Nix, just boom, boom, boom. They're kicking in here now. Junior Figueroa, Cedar Creek Free, Ron Foreman. Y'all are filing in here now. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Like I said, hit that thumbs up, comment, let me know who I'm talking to, and share this thing. Thank y'all so very much for doing that. Let's break it down. Before we do that, we'll get one more cheers before we get started in the in-depth conversation here. Let's break down what's going on. So, you know, one of the coolest things, and I say this all the time, one of the coolest things about bass fishing is we all kind of have our own little tweaks and things that we do and ways that we go about doing things. And a lot of times, even at the highest of levels, you'll have guys that are fishing that just completely see things differently and don't agree with what's going on the water or how to catch them or whatever. And that's no different than if you watch content on YouTube. And specifically, if you watch content on YouTube from Lake Fork, there's going to be times when we have differing opinions from other guys that are out there doing that. And I encourage each and every one of those guys to do it. I don't, you know, I'm not a selfish guy in that, like, oh, I want all the Lake Fork attention. I don't care. I don't care about that. I want every one of these guides and businesses around the lake to all flourish and do well. And I honestly think they all should be doing a lot more content, honestly, in my opinion. I think they would all be better off business-wise. Certainly is how it's panned out for me. From a business perspective, it's good to do more content. And I think they should too. I would never discourage that. Sometimes, though, there's things that people send me and I'll see it and I just, you know, it is what it is, but sometimes I just totally disagree with those opinions that go out there on what's happening on the lake. You know, the fishing on Lake Fork has been good at times all summer. It's been good at times and it's been really tough at times. It's just been really inconsistent. And to me, I see that as that just goes right along with our weather's been really inconsistent. We finally had the water temps up around 90 degrees, over 90 degrees in, you know, late June, early July. And then now we've gone back into a cool trend. And then now this week, as we've gotten later in the week, the water temps have started to heat back up. And I saw some earlier when another guy said something about how it's making the fish bite better because the water's cooler. Maybe it is for him. I couldn't disagree with that more. I want, when those fish start to get to the summertime mode where they're wanting to be out there and offshore stuff, I want it to be as extremely hot as possible. The hotter, the better. I mean, there's no limit. The hotter that water temperature is, the better. The more extreme that water temperature is, the more those fish are going to do the same thing and get grouped up in bigger groups. Now, there'll be a bigger percentage of the lake that doesn't have anything happening. So you'll have some empty areas that don't have nothing going on, but you will have the fish grouped up. The thermocline stacks those fish up. That was another thing that I heard, was thermocline's bad for the fish. I just respectfully couldn't disagree more. I want it to be hot. I want there to be a thermocline. I want those fish to be in extreme situations, temperature-wise, where they all have to go to the same area to get the most oxygen in the coolest water. That's going to create the biggest schools of fish, and it's really going to create the situation where you can just have these just unbelievable home run days, and it's going to be more consistent. The fish are going to be doing the same thing day after day. When it's 90 degrees today, water temp, and then a couple days later it's 83-degree water temp, man, that's those fish change and move around, and you got to almost kind of find them every day starting over, and it makes it more difficult to stay on them. I really like it to be hot, hot, hot. So to me, this hot weather is what makes that offshore bite better. It's what makes those schools bigger, and that's what we're seeing as we get towards the end of this week. As air temperatures get hot and start heating the water temperatures back up some, as that water starts to warm trend again, it makes the groups of fish get bigger. It just does, from what I see, from my perspective on it. So not trying to start a fight with anybody or pick on anybody, but I know a lot of you guys listen to a lot of information, and I encourage you to do that. If I was you, I would consume all the information on Lake Fork that I could if you're coming to fish Lake Fork, and then you make the decision on what works best for you, and you go fish your game. But just wanted to throw that out there, I guess. Like I said, again, not trying to start a fight with anybody, so nobody think I'm going after anybody or anything like that. That's not what this is. Just putting my thought process on it out there for you guys. I want it to be hot, and I want there to be a thermocline, and there's not one. So let's talk about the bite. So the offshore bite is the main deal. That's the deal that I want to do right now. It's basically just about the only thing I'm doing. But there is a shallow bite. There's a chatterbait bite up shallow, especially if you draw a cloudy day. There's a chatterbait bite up shallow. Even when you don't, you can catch them on a chatterbait up shallow right now. I've been throwing a white one. I've been throwing a paddle tail. Honestly, probably should have switched over to the impact shad by now. Really should have. But been throwing a paddle tail. Again, the water temps, especially when we're on those cool trends, the shallow water gets even cooler than the main lake water does. So I haven't gone to that super hot water impact shad trailer yet, but probably should at this point. But just throwing a white 3/8 ounce chatterbait, shad pattern type deal. And then the other thing is there's a wacky worm bite. There's a wacky worm bite up shallow and even kind of mid-depth as well. You can go up around docks, flooded grass. I mean, there's enough fish this year that have just kind of, the fish have stayed more spread out because of the weather and stuff. You can just kind of go around with a wacky worm and pick you off a few good fish each day, just old school fishing, real slow and patient with a wacky worm most days. Now for offshore fishing, we talked about it on Wednesday in our instructional. We've been fishing this bait, sometimes on a Carolina rig, sometimes on a Texas rig. Brush piles have come back into play for me this week a lot. So the Texas rig ridge worm is great. This is a blue fleck type color here. I've been throwing it in plum apple a lot. I've also been throwing it in green pumpkin some as well. Changing the colors up day to day, sometimes pile to pile. But the old big worm bite, man, it's the time of year. They're biting it right now. They kind of bite it all the time when they're offshore, especially when they're in brush piles and timber. But the old 10-inch worm, that's as easy as it can get. It's as consistent and dependable as it can get. Highly suggest, if you don't know what you're doing, you're coming to Lake Fork, you get in some offshore structure around 20 foot of water and throw this in some brush piles and timber, and you're probably going to catch you a big one or two at the worst, on the worst day. So. Then there's the jig bite. I was so happy to see the jig bite show up a couple weeks ago, and it's still around, still throwing that Mexican crawl color, whatever it's called. It's got the chartreuse and purple and green pumpkin. But throwing that 3/4 ounce jig right there with a stroker crawl as a trailer and sprayed grass. Right? Yeah, that sprayed grass is the color stroker crawl I'm using as a trailer on that jig right there. They're still biting that jig a little bit. We're also fit. The good thing about that jig is you can throw that in the timber and the brush, and you can also throw it in the more open water areas, and it's very effective there as well. Cody Mays, that's a Santone name for that color. The bait that needs the heat the most to me, deep diving crankbait. This is the C20. I've been throwing both C20 and C25. This is the color I've been throwing the most. It's got white on the belly, chartreuse, and blue on top. But the chartreuse blue style deep diving crankbaits, they kind of bit it, last week it got a little hotter and then it cooled off a little bit and they kind of didn't bite it as good for me. If you grind it with it, you can still catch one. But this week at the end, like the last day or two, with the water temps starting to heat up finally, now they're starting to kind of nibble on that crankbait a little bit better again. So another thing, that crankbait, dude, when they start getting grouped up in better groups as it gets hotter, and you throw that crankbait in there when there's more of them in there and they're more competitive and you get one to react to it, it fires up the whole school and it really opens up the door for you to have a successful offshore outing on that school when you get them fired up and get them competitive chasing that crankbait down. So that's the reason I really like grinding that big crankbait when they're out there. Man, you could also go offshore if you wanted to with a Carolina rig and probably catch them right now. The big shaky head with big perm, the Smash Tech Magnum crawler on it. All of those things can work. Those are the baits I'm using the most offshore, is the big 10-inch worm, the jig, and the crankbait. All three of those are true, sure enough, big bite baits, big fish baits. I like doing that. When I'm fishing in schools of fish, I like trying to target the bigger fish in the school first if I can. So that's how I prefer to fish, and that's what we're doing with those baits right there. Those are three of the most big fish baits you can throw offshore. That old big jig, that's my boo thing, man. I love that old big jig. It's a nice looking fishing shirt. You like that? Man, I don't even remember the guy's name now. It's been so long ago. A customer gave me a couple of these a couple years back, and then I coach my kids in soccer, and their team is the Sharks. They're the same color blue as this. And it's got a shark on the logo, so I always wore this when I was coaching my kids' soccer team. So OES Pressure Control, y'all kind of sponsored the coach of my kids' soccer team, which is me. We've been giving y'all some advertisement. Have I tried the ridgeworm on a shaky head yet? Yes, it works really well on shaky head. I will throw it on shaky. I'll throw the ridgeworm on shaky head, no doubt about it. I'm fishing it more in brush and timber right now, and so I'm throwing it on a Texas rig. Tim Rhodes says, it's QES. QES Pressure Control is no longer. Axis bought them. Well, they live on in the Year Lake Fort Guy garage, Tim Rhodes, right here on this shirt. Mikey Sims in the house. Hook size on the ridgeworm. Throwing a 4/0 jugular. It's a 6-inch jugular hook. It's a straight shank round bend offset hook, but it's a 4/0 size on that hook that I'm throwing. Cody Mays, the boat is parked outside. I got it hooked up to the truck. I actually got my two boys over here tonight with me, and we're going to go to the lake. I'm taking me and the boys are going out to the lake. We're going to do some fishing, I'm sure, but we're probably going to take Skeeter. We're definitely taking Skeeter Bug along. So me, the two boys, and Skeeter Bug are going out. We're probably going to go out there and swim and throw the tennis ball for Skeeter Bug and just piddle around and have a good day at the lake tomorrow. What's up with a spoon bite? Not enough fish is spinning. I don't know. They might be biting a spoon a little bit. I haven't really thrown it. I don't know. I just haven't really thrown it as much. Maybe I should. Maybe I've missed that. I personally have not been throwing the big spoon a whole lot. Is the full moon tonight going to play a big part in the bite? It's going to make the bite, the peak bite happen in the middle of the day. So whenever you have a full moon, yeah, that's going to make some fish feed at night, but man, fish will feed whenever. Now the peak activity hours are going to be at midnight and at noon, because that's when the moon's going to be overhead at midnight on a full moon. It's going to be directly underfoot at noon tomorrow. So right around the middle of the day is when the peak activity level, the best bite of the day, should be around the middle of the day tomorrow for the offshore bite. Maze said the mullet's coming in nice. You like that, Maze? We getting it. It's starting to get there. It's still a little trailer park mullet, but it'll get there someday. It's like it got to a certain length and then it kind of stopped growing. I don't know. Maybe my hair just ain't gonna grow that long. We'll see. I'm trying to grow that mullet. See how bad it looks with the hat off. What y'all think? Is it getting there? It's trying to get there. Oh, Jerry curl. Well, yeah, it's a Jerry curl, but it's a dry one, man. We ain't got no juice dripping off it, dog. We can't be having no Jerry curl juice. No, sir. Man, who's got some questions? I think I looked through. I didn't see a whole lot of questions. If y'all got questions, pop them in there. I'd love to answer them for you. We're about to be shut down for a month, man. We're gonna be here for one more week. We're gonna do this content, and then come August, we are going to shut down for about 3 or 4 weeks while I hang out with my boys before they go back to school. I'm gonna have them with me the whole time during August. It's gonna be awesome. What Greg Haynes say? Greg Haynes says, I'll get you some brown water. We can cut that crap off. Hold up, dog. The viewers of the channel requested this, man. We can't be cutting it off before it's full on real mullet. And you know how I am. Like, we ain't ever out of brown water around here. Cedar Creek Freak, I'll try. I mean, no promises, dog, but I'll try. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. Players gotta play. How are these glasses for seeing in water? They're great. Might as well give them a Waterland a plug. I don't plug Waterland near enough. By the way, Waterland's got a sale. You can get 15% off right now. Waterlandco.com. You go to that website, punch in the code Your Lake Fort Guide. You'll get 15% off any Waterland sunglasses. These are the ones I depend on. Y'all know how I am about bed fishing, man. And these are as good as it gets. As good as it gets, and a lot less expensive than a lot of the competitive options to them out there. So highly recommend you Waterland eyewear. They're phenomenal for looking in the water. Best advice for catching suspended bass in submerged timber in 20 foot of water. That is a good question. It's actually a timely question. We just actually covered this on yesterday's video, Wednesday's video. It's, to me, when fish suspend in timber, especially around here, there's nothing better than a big 10-inch ribbon-tail worm. Now, this ridge worm is a little different look. It's a new take on a ribbon-tail worm, but it's phenomenal. They bite the heck out of it. But a big 10-inch ribbon-tail worm on a 1/4 ounce weight, you throw it into the timber, and basically you slowly drag that worm up over the limbs and branches where those fish are suspending in that timber, and it gets right in their face, and it hangs in their face, and then it climbs over that limb and boom, starts to fall. And that, you get the finesse version of the bait hanging in their face for a long time as you slowly drag it up. And when it falls, I almost knocked my hat off, when it almost did this thing, whatever they do. When it falls, you also get the reaction aspect of the bite. Big 10-inch worm. You can even drop down to an 1/8 ounce weight if you really want to slow down and pick it apart. But big 10-inch worm on a 1/4 ounce weight, Texas rig, you can throw it right in that timber where they're suspending, get right in their face, and get after their butts. That technique catches giants on Lake Fork every year in the dog days of summer. Every year. The way this weather has been, August may be the prime offshore bite. Yeah, might be. Might be. Tim, leave it up to my old tournament partner, Tim Rose, to make comments I can't even repeat on there. Sawyer Nick says he's fishing Fork tomorrow and he can't wait. I don't blame you. You should be excited, dog. One offshore bait. What would you pick? One, oh, golly. This time of year is that 10-inch worm. Probably a Carolina rig overall. Carolina rig probably gets more bites for me offshore than anything else does. And I catch really big ones on Carolina rigs at times. I mean, I'll catch little ones, but I do catch really big fish on Carolina rigs as well. Carolina rig to me is kind of like the wacky worm of deep water. Like the wacky worm at shallow is like the bite getter, man. But it also catches a giant once in a while. That's what a Carolina rig is offshore. So one bait year round to fish offshore, Carolina rig. Right now, like this week, next week, that 10-inch worm. Maybe talk about your plan of action when you hit the lake. What are you looking for the most, not just schools of fish? Well, we'll take it from the perspective of if I was going to a lake I hadn't been on. Or if I had not been on Lake Fork for a week or two and I was going out there for the first time in a while. The first thing that I want to look at is going to be this time of year when I'm thinking offshore. I want to look at what depth most of the life is in. So I'm going to idle out from wherever I launch from and just kind of idle around. And in East Texas and on Lake Fork or the other lakes around here, there's enough life in the water. There's kind of a little bit of stuff almost anywhere you go. And you can really start zeroing in on what the depth zone is where the majority of the life is. Like 9 times out of 10, you're going to see that 15 to 20 feet is holding most of the life, or 20 to 25, or 10 to 15, or 13 to 17, or whatever it may be. There'll be a zone in there that has most of the life on your electronics when you're looking at downscan and sonar. That's going to be the first thing I look for, because that's going to tell me what depth I need to focus on structure. So now I'm going to look for the sections of points and humps and pond dams and all that stuff that top out in that depth. So if it's 15 to 20, I'm going to look for stuff that tops out from 15 to 20, where I got the crest, the peak of that structure in that depth zone where most of the life is. That way there's going to be a better chance that more bait fish will gather up on there, and then of course more bass will then of course gather up on there as well. So that's going to be the first thing that I look for. After that, I'm going to look to see how the fish are positioning. Are they, when I go over those structures, is their fish tight to the bottom, or are they suspending? Which direction is the wind blowing? I want to fish structures that the wind is blowing into and not away from, if I can help it at all. If there's no wind at all, a lot of times those are going to be the days when you're suspending. So I'm going to take all these, and there's so many things that go into a day of bass fishing. I'm going to take all these factors into consideration when I start looking and deciding where am I going to look offshore to try and find these schools of fish. And once I've got all that dialed in, and I kind of got my areas that I think they're going to be in, I'll start running as many of those as I can, graphing them until I see schools of fish. And then once I find a school of fish, I'll look at the area they're on and I say, okay, what cover is present here? Is this a wide open road bed? Is this a timbered point? Is there a brush pile there? What is the cover present? And that's going to help me determine which bait I'm going to pick at that point. So if it's a wide open road bed or something like that, I'll tend to pick things, I'll tend to pick things like a swim bait on a jig head, or a deep diving crankbait, or a Carolina rig on those more open water areas. If there's more timber, brush, something like that, more cover, then I'm going to tend to go more with the more weedless baits like a 3/4 ounce jig or that Texas rig worm. So just a lot of factors, a lot of factors. Blake Doty, appreciate you joining us, my man. Thank you very much. Uh-oh. Timmy, did you go out to Lake Holbrook and pick on them boys? Y'all better stop that. You better stop going out there to Lake Holbrook and picking on them boys on Tuesday night, man. That ain't fair. You've been doing that too long. Tim got all his spots on Lake Holbrook from me, by the way. I'm just going to let y'all know that. By the way, all you guys that fished Tuesday night on Lake Holbrook last week, just know I was there during the day, and my guy caught an 8-pounder, so I'm pretty sure we would have had big bass at least to that deal. Just saying. Where's the Your Lake Fork Guide trademark t-shirts for 6 cents? The other slogans need some competition. Yeah, I guess so. Well, I don't know. What are we going to put on a Your Lake Fork Guide 6 cents t-shirt? What's saying? We don't want to have cool sayings like boat flips only or net man or whatever. I don't know. What are we going to put on there? I don't know. Some of the stuff we say in my boat, I don't think we can put on a t-shirt and sell it, honestly. Double digits only. Yeah, yeah, that's true. We could do double digits only. You did hear that here first, folks. Hero. Forget y'all. Maze, I've never once said that. That's you and Vic saying that hero stuff. We get a Cody Mays Vic Pearsall 6 t-shirt made up, says hero on it. Oh my goodness. Timmy said he had big bass at 6 something and missed first by 3 ounces solo in a team tournament. Well, Tim, you ought to just fish team tournaments with me. That'd be great because, you know, I could have caught that 8-pounder for you, showed you where that 8-pounder was, and we could have just dominated and won. Best lose reel. Overall, like versatile, use it for everything reel. My favorite one is the Team Lose Light Speed Spool. That's Lite, Light Speed Spool. Yep, that's my favorite one. Blake Doty says, have I heard of Texas tiny boats there in Alba? He says he can get a rusted up John boat for cheap, still too broke for anything nicer than something like that. I hear you. No, I've never heard of that. Sounds interesting though. Luz needs to come back with a tournament MBs for us broke fellas. Man, that $100 speed spool is pretty good. I can't remember what the exact name of it was, but they got like a speed spool. It's a $100 reel. It's pretty good. And that'd be even cheaper than the tournament MBs were. And they've got this, they just changed it to like tournament MP or something like that. Like it's just a new upgrade of the old model, but the new version of the tournament MB is called the tournament MP, I think. Is the level one pretty good on the lose? Well, man, here's the tournament MB that is, I don't know when I made the change to lose, 2 or 3 years ago when I went all lose, but that's how old this reel is. And this is the cheapest one that I run. And it was about $130 reel, $120 reel, something like that. But that's the lose tournament MB that they discontinued and changed. Came out with a new model called the MP. But anyway, the level one on this is still operates perfectly. I mean, you can see in that spool, it's nuts, dude. It's nailed on, like it's perfect. And we'll get another lose model here. We'll get my cranking model. As you can see again, there's no variance in that spool. I gotta be careful and break that long 8-foot cranking rod. There's really no variance in that spool. It's dead level. That's the Super Duty LFSG is what that is. That's what I like to crank with. And then I've got a Hyper Mag over here. And you guys know, and all of these reels are 2 years old and been fished with a ton. You guys know that I use this a bunch because it's on a chatterbait stick. So again, look at the levelness in there. So the level one on all my lures that are just 2 years of getting beat to death up and down the road every day. And I'm not real good at babying I leave them out on the deck when I drive everywhere. I don't baby my reels at all. They're all 2 years in. I haven't had any failures on any of them. Yeah, they're really good. Really durable. Colton Lewis, that's why the Hyper Mag felt amazing. Is why the Hyper Mag is amazing. So when somebody asks me what my favorite lose reel is, I love the Hyper Mag. The problem with the Hyper Mag is on bigger size line, it doesn't have enough line capacity to do some techniques. If I'm making really long casts with stuff like spooks or crankbaits of some kind of swim baits, if I'm making really long casts, the Hyper Mag just doesn't hold enough 17 or 20 pound line. It just has less line capacity. That's the only knock on it. But like weightless plastics, I love throwing my weightless plastic on the Hyper Mag because it's like, and it casts that sucker just with a little flick of the wrist. It'll cast that little wacky worm or whatever as far as you want to cast it. Sim says, my secret lake cost him a frog rod, broke it in half on the first fish in the tournament, had to hand line the 5-pounder in. That's a hell of a way to start though. But hey, if it's the same secret lake I think you're talking about, there is some big, big, big fish in there. Does my garage have AC? Yeah, I've got a window unit in my garage that just stays on all the time. So It's not too bad in here at all. Cody asked about how I'm not burning up. I got AC in here though. We've been having success with dark water bug color. Yeah, I have. Fishing that, I've been fishing that 10-inch ridgeworm in dark water bug, which is blurple, black, blue, and purple is what it is. I wish they just rename it blurple. I think that'd be better. But anyway, yeah, dark water bug has been getting some bites. Chris says, coming to Lake Fork, my first time ever next week, ready to burn up in the sun and stretch the line. Man, if you like offshore fishing, you picking a good time to come, buddy. Timmy, yeah, I know what lake it is, brother. I sure do. Tim, it's the lake that you introduced me to all those years ago, if I'm correct. Fishing with JC says he caught an 8-pound over yesterday on a 1/2 ounce swim bait head. Old jig head swim bait with a divine swim bait in Little Caney. That doesn't surprise me a bit. Haven't been throwing the big perm as much this summer as last. I haven't. I usually like throwing that big perm when it gets really, really hot. It's like kind of, they go through this progress of bites. It's like they'll bite the deep crankbait right in the beginning when they're first out there, nobody's been out there. Then once everybody gets out there, they'll bite that jig for a while, a jig and a Carolina rig, and then they'll kind of back off that jig bite, and that's when I usually pick up the big perm. The problem was, by the time enough fish got out there, everybody was already looking for them out there because of how late everything was. So that early crankbait bite didn't really happen. The jig bite finally started happening. And I don't know, just my normal procedure of things, I never have got to that time of year where it's hot water temps where I really like throwing big perm. We are throwing it some. We are catching some fish on it, but you know, that part of the deal is there's nothing that's been just super consistent. Everything's been inconsistent with the water temps back and forth like they have been this summer. So it's not that we're not throwing it, we're not getting bites on it. It's just different stuff almost daily, it seems, certainly weekly. Colton Deloach says no lake is a secret anymore. Unfortunately, I got one that is. I got one that's a secret. I ain't never telling. Blake Doty says them South Texas bass been chewing on that June bug, big perm. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. What else we got in a lot of questions, man? We may call this one an early night tonight. Hopefully some of you guys are fishing this weekend and y'all go catch some big ones, man. Get out there offshore and catch you a big one. It's a good time of year to do it, for sure, no doubt. All right, looks like we all in on the questions, man. Hey, thank you guys once again. We got one more week of content before we take our big break in August. We got one more seminar, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, next Friday. We'll have one more seminar at Lake Fork Marina. We'll try to do it up big with it being the last one of the season. Hell yeah. Cheers, y'all. It's Thursday night, man. Cheers, y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Yeah, that'll do it. We'll just wrap it up. I feel like I'm off tonight. I'm awkward. I'm not, things aren't flowing the way that, Ted Nugent threw me off. I got so excited about Uncle Ted in the beginning. It threw me off for the rest of the night, man. But anyways, thanks once again. We'll see y'all next time right here on your Lake Fork Guide.